What if the moon disappeared tonight? Tonight, before you close your curtains, step outside and take one last look at the moon. Because in this story, it will be the last time anyone on Earth ever sees it. There is no explosion, no warning, no sirens, no flash across the sky. At exactly midnight, the moon simply disappears. One moment it's there, the next, it's gone. And the strangest part? Almost nobody notices. Cities continue to glow, traffic keeps moving, airplanes take off on schedule. Millions of people fall asleep, completely unaware that the closest companion our planet has ever known has just vanished. For a few precious hours, the world seems perfectly normal. But nature notices immediately. Newborn sea turtles crawl onto the beach, unable to find the moonlight that has guided their species for millions of years. Migrating birds begin drifting away from ancient roots written into their instincts. The oceans grow strangely quiet, and without a single sound, Earth has just lost one of the greatest forces that has shaped life for more than 4 billion years. What happens next will change our planet forever. The oceans begin to change. So what happens next? At first, you might think losing the moon would only make our nights darker. But the moon does something far more important than light up the sky. It pulls on our planet. Every second of every day, the moon's gravity is quietly moving enormous amounts of ocean water around Earth. We call this the tides. Now imagine that gravitational pull suddenly disappearing. The oceans would not vanish, and they would not instantly become completely still. The sun would continue producing weaker tides, but the powerful rhythm we know today would change dramatically. Across coastlines around the world, entire ecosystems would be disrupted. Tidal pools would change, feeding grounds would shrink. Countless creatures that depend on the regular rise and fall of the sea would struggle to survive. And once those populations begin to decline, the damage moves upward. Fish, seabirds, marine predators, one species affects another, and another, until entire food webs begin to change. But even that is not the most frightening consequence. Because the moon isn't only influencing our oceans, it's helping stabilize the entire planet, and without it, Earth's future could become far more unpredictable. Earth loses its balance. But the oceans are only the beginning. Because the moon does something far more important than most people realize. It helps keep our planet stable. Think of Earth like a giant spinning top. Right now, our planet spins with its axis tilted about 23 degrees. That tilt helps create the seasons. And over extremely long periods of time, the moon's gravitational influence helps keep Earth's tilt relatively stable. Now imagine, the moon is gone. Does Earth suddenly flip over? No. Does civilization collapse tomorrow morning? No. In fact, tomorrow might feel completely normal. You wake up, your alarm rings, you check your phone, you drink your coffee. Outside, cars fill the streets. Trains keep running. Airplanes continue crossing the sky. The internet still works. Millions of people go to work, without realizing that something fundamental about their planet has changed. Because the real danger isn't tomorrow. It's what happens next, over thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of years. Without the moon's stabilizing influence, Earth's axial tilt could become far more variable. And when Earth's tilt changes, its climate changes too. Imagine regions that are warm and fertile today becoming dramatically colder. Ice spreading across places where millions of people once lived. Elsewhere, frozen landscapes could become warmer. Rainfall patterns could shift. Deserts could expand, forests could retreat, animals would be forced to migrate. Some species would adapt, others might disappear, and eventually, humans would feel it too. Farmers could discover that crops no longer grow where they once did. Communities could face changing water supplies. Coastal ecosystems would already be struggling with altered tides. Food chains could reorganize, and entire populations might eventually be forced to move. But here is the frightening part. There may be no single day when humanity realizes everything has changed. No giant explosion, no fireball in the sky, no final warning. Instead, the transformation could happen slowly, quietly, generation after generation. Children would inherit a world slightly different from the one their parents knew. And their children would inherit another, until, far in the future, our descendants might look at Earth and barely recognize the planet we once called home. But humanity has survived enormous changes before. So now we arrive at the most important question, not whether Earth would change. It would. The question is, could humanity change fast enough to survive with it? Would humanity survive? Could humanity change fast enough to survive? The answer is yes, but not everyone would. Humans are incredibly good at adapting. We could redesign our cities, change the way we grow food, move populations away from regions becoming too hostile, and use technology to predict a world that is becoming increasingly unpredictable. The wealthiest and most prepared nations might adapt first, but other communities could face a much harder reality. Crops could fail, water supplies could shift, people might be forced to leave places their families have called home for generations. Some cities would survive, others might slowly disappear, but humanity has faced enormous challenges before. Our ancestors survived extreme climate shifts. Civilization survived famine, disease, and natural disasters. Again and again, humans adapted, we learned, we rebuilt, and we continued, so losing the moon would not necessarily mean the end of humanity. But survival would come at a price. Because this time, we would not be fighting a single disaster. We would be adapting to a planet that may never stop changing. And the longer we survive, the less familiar Earth could become. Earth, 1,000 years later. And the longer humanity survives, the less familiar Earth could become. Now, fast forward 1,000 years. Earth is still here, humanity may still be here, but our world could look very different. Climate patterns may have shifted. Some forests could disappear, while new ecosystems emerge elsewhere. Coastlines would adapt to dramatically weaker tides. Cities once home to millions might be abandoned, while new settlements rise in places our ancestors never imagined living. And humanity? We would adapt. We would redesign our cities, change how we grow food, develop new technologies, and move when nature gives us no other choice. Generation after generation, we would learn to survive on a changing planet. But every night, one thing would remind us of what we had lost. Look up. No moon, no silver light across the ocean, no full moon rising above the mountains, no lunar eclipses, only stars, and an empty darkness where Earth's companion once traveled. For billions of years, the moon was simply there, quietly shaping our oceans, our planet, and the story of life itself. Perhaps only after losing it, would we finally understand how much the moon had given us. The greatest thing we never noticed. For more than 4 billion years, the moon has been Earth's constant companion. Long before the first oceans formed, long before the first forests covered the land, long before the first human ever looked into the night sky, the moon was already here, silently orbiting our planet, shaping the tides, steadying Earth's gentle tilt, helping create a world where life could survive, evolve, and eventually wonder how it all began. It never asked to be admired. It never demanded our attention. It simply did what it had always done, night after night, year after year, for billions of years. Perhaps that's why we rarely think about it, because the most important things in our lives are often the quietest: the air filling our lungs, the gravity holding us to the ground, the invisible magnetic field shielding us from deadly radiation, and the moon, a silent neighbor whose influence reaches every ocean, every coastline, and every living creature on Earth. Fortunately, everything you've experienced in this journey is only a thought experiment. The moon isn't expected to disappear tonight, and that's something worth appreciating. So tonight, when darkness falls, step outside, look up. That familiar glow above you isn't just another object drifting through space. It's a reminder that life on Earth depends on an extraordinary chain of cosmic events. If even one piece had been different, our world might never have existed at all. Maybe the greatest lesson isn't what would happen if the moon disappeared. Maybe it's realizing that we've been living beside one of the greatest wonders in the universe. every single night, and somehow, we almost forgot.